Hey guys, June here, and I just wanted to talk about two of the patches that happened today that people are justifiably freaking out about, and talk about what it actually means and how it's going to influence PvM going forward. The first patch is that Dreadnips no longer are able to stun an enemy that has a temporary stun immunity active. This has scared a lot of people that don't accurately understand what this actually means. Dreadnips still have a stun, and it still works on stun immune enemies. Basically, whenever a stun is applied to an enemy, they have a temporary period where they can't be restunned, and Dreadnips previously were bugged, allowing a stun to be reapplied during this period. This meant that once you had 4 or 5 Dreadnips on an enemy, you essentially stun-locked them and prevented them from ever attacking. Obviously this was unintended and was definitely overpowered, so this patch was done to fix that. Dreadnips are of course still incredibly useful, and if you're using them during solo encounters like for example in God Wars Dungeon 2, you'll actually notice no change whatsoever. The change is most noticeable at raids, where you're likely to have 10 sets of Dreadnips on the enemy at one time, but even there, the overall change is relatively small, and they're still a very important part of the strategy. The second nerf is to the Dominion Tower gloves, particularly for the stat reduction effect, which no longer is able to stack up on an enemy. This applies both to multiple applications from a single player, but also for multiple players using these same sets of gloves. This basically means that, for example, at Yakamaru, having one player with a set of Dominion Tower gloves is equivalent, in stat reduction terms, to having all players have Dominion Tower gloves. This is a relatively significant change specifically with Yakamaru in mind, but it doesn't change much elsewhere. The stat reduction effect is no longer able to stack up and completely eliminate Yakamaru's defense, which is going to make the Statius Warhammer a much more appealing tool to bring with you. However, this doesn't mean that the gloves are useless. In fact, they're still technically your best in slot items. Even if you only consider the fact that it has the potential to boost a basic attack damage by 25%, that alone constitutes about a 1.25% increase in damage, and that's roughly equivalent to tier 90 gloves, which are what the primary competitors are for damage. Add on top of that the reduction to enemy stats, which, although weakened, is still relatively considerable and does improve your accuracy, plus the fact that they have a passive damage reduction effect, and these are still very appealing sets of gloves. On the bright side, these two nerfs were counterbalanced by a really nice quality of life buff. In short, the different bosses in the Dominion Tower now give different amounts of boss kill count depending on their difficulty. Dominion Tower gloves have also had their lifespan increased from 4 hours to 10 hours. These two changes dramatically reduce the amount of time necessary to expend to get these sets of gloves. They're super easy to replace now, you can farm tons of them in a very short time, and as a result, they're applicable to be used at pretty much every single PvM location, and as far as I can tell now, there's really no reason to ever use tier 90 gloves. And on that same note, it's much easier to accumulate Dreadnips as well, up to 10,000 an hour just by farming Dominion Tower, which of course means it's much more easy to be frivolous with these and use them all over the place even if they only provide a small benefit. Thanks for watching guys, I just wanted to throw this video together to allay some of your fears because originally the reaction was initially quite harsh, and yet I think the changes are actually quite wonderful. I look forward to using Dominion Tower gloves all over the place and having quick and easy access to Dreadnips to use all over as well. If you don't already have access to these, now is a great time to go and do that. They're certainly worthwhile. So thanks again, and I'll see you in the next video.